we pray for him. Om Namah Shivaya. You're good, you're bad. No, absolutely. So, let's just leave the orgasmic for a while. The negative examples are usually most telling. Speaking from direct experience, when I was almost, one could say, barely making it in pneumonia, the pain of coughing was so excruciating, but it was accompanied by a supremely exalting state of bliss. This was for me, I was grateful for that experience, although it was, at the detriment of, I had to learn to walk up the stairs for a few weeks after. So that's what I meant, is that it was a direct and visceral experience that bliss is indeed there. And it illumines every experience, even pain itself. It's revelatory. It was a revelatory experience. And of course, orgasm, that what we call orgasm, it's the closest, I insist, closest manifestation of bliss which is available on a physiological level to every human being. Every human being. And we don't need to go there because there were few teachers before me. Osho spoke about it with so much eloquence, thank you, that why humans are obsessed with orgasm. Because that's the only knowledge of bliss, of that intensity. Because we want to re-experience that over and over, because we are not experiencing, we are deprived of bliss. We are deprived of bliss, so we want to re-experience that. Obsession with that experience is born of that. How does that function, if you're interested? Just quickly, so that you can kind of feel some of the dots. Why is that? Is because there is this connection, and most of you already know, because there's quite few awakened ladies and gentlemen who have read about Kundalini enough to know that there's a subtle channel in the middle of your spine, right, known as Sushumna. And this is where awakened Shakti meant to rise. The only thing I will add that actually it has another name as a Merudanda, and it's not just one channel, it's actually 4 channels within and 2 on the side, so 6 together. It's theme on its own right, so don't let me go there, but 3 within are really desirable, and 1 is risky, and it's known under the term Vajra. Hence the name for the Buddhist practice known as Vajrayana. And if you've seen the deities, that like explicit images, Vajrayana Tantra is that copulation, that union. Because that one particular channel within the Sushumna, it's all within the Sushumna, it's progressively subtler tubes. Imagine that shaft, extremely subtle, and yet within that extremely subtle pathway there is also progressively subtler channel. So one of them is Vajra, right? Vajra Nadi. And it connects the second chakra, the sexual chakra, straight to the highest cortexes in the brain, but not to the Sahasrara. So it connects to this very important cortexes, where immediately that energy rises as we begin to get engaged in sexual activity. but it explodes there in the moment of orgasm. So that's why orgasm is easily accompanied by visions of light, by all these sensations, loss of ego, that human ego could be experienced in orgasm. Because it temporarily shatters this whole thing because of that connection. And some practices utilize that. But it's not advisable for those in the know. It's just a footnote. So of course, orgasmic experience, by its very nature, it's the most telling, the most palpable, where bliss of the self is being experienced in a visceral manner. However, the bliss of the self experienced when the sublimation of energy takes place, right? It's incomparably more intense. Incomparably more intense. Some say thousands and thousands of times. Some say, I don't know, tens of thousands times. I wouldn't go that far, because how that being could know, like the intensity differs from being to being. But it is so. And it doesn't happen all the time. That sublimation takes only once. If nothing is abstracted, when Shakti energy arises, that event takes only one time. Not many people know and understand that. Even if after that Kundalini will go up and down, after that of course it will be Prana Shakti, because it's already uncoiled, it's no longer Kunda. It goes up and down as much as it wants. It will find its own place of repose in whichever chakra. And don't get me wrong, because some people don't understand that. It doesn't have to necessarily find its residence in the upper chakras. Even if it resides back in Muladhara, if it wants to, it will make a very grounded being. It will make it a truly man of the world, a woman of the world. The point is that by then, no longer it is bound by the earth element. It united and went back to repose. It might settle in the heart, it might settle in the solar plexus, and then you will be very, very charismatic. But what's the point is here, is that that experience takes only once, and that's why it's known as virgin in the respective tradition. It's never to be repeated. So that one flow of molten gold experienced within the Merudanda in the respective channel, and this let us make a separate gathering completely. This is just when we talk about bliss. So of course bliss manifests itself, but I want you to know that when you eat a cookie which is nice and you feel that joy, it's bliss. When you drink your favorite brand of tea, when you speak to a friend who you haven't heard and you recognize his or her voice, you experience joy, it's bliss. Everything that gives you that something, it empowers everything. Absolutely everything. You pick a flower and you look at it and it's beautiful, it's bliss. Manifestant physically. You inhale that scent. It's empowered by bliss and nothing else. So this need to be understood by you so that you understand the real nature of experience from the perspective of bliss. So that then you will not be afraid that bliss is some kind of to get addicted to. You cannot get addicted to that which illumines something. It's an oxymoron.
Can I just quickly clarify, when I was talking about the orgasm, it wasn't the sexual orgasm?
Yeah, I talked about non-sexual orgasm as well.
Okay,
yeah.
I guess my question is like when you're talking about the bliss body, like the bliss body being this most subtle of all the sheaths.
Mm-hmm.
And now am I tapping into, when I'm experiencing that, usually after if I'm fasting, if I'm tapping into that, am I tapping into specifically that that sheath? Or am I, like, is the cellular structure experiencing something?
If you connect to me, Katie, now, because you see, look, connect to me now, because like sometimes you run. I want you to connect to me. When I said when you eat cookie, if you're following what I'm saying, that will give you a great insight on orgasm. If you're experiencing joy while eating your favorite cookie, and if that's bliss, obviously Anandamaya Kosha is involved in that. Because Anandamaya Kosha, as we've established, and thank you for bringing that over as supper, and when we talked about the koshas, we should have said that there is no demarcation line where one body ends and another begins, in a sense that they're distinctive, and yet there is this interpenetration. Obviously, it couldn't be otherwise. Although Pranamaya Kosha is a second kosha next to the, right, after the body made of food, right? It connects the body to all other koshas, you see? So it extends all the way through. And I spoke later that subtle body is made out of 3 koshas, 3 intermediate koshas. The subtle body is made out of Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya. Did I speak about that? I did? Okay. So the subtle body itself, the body made of subtle channels, right? All 72,000 of them, all the chakras that known to us, right? All that what is basically etherical field is the constituency of 3 intermediate layers: Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya. The grossest here is the physical, and the subtlest is the layer of bliss. But it's not that physical is somewhere away, or body of bliss, or the layer of bliss is somewhere separate. Like, let's say, graphically speaking, if you imagine it too graphic, then you might think that I'm sitting here, and then it's got Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya. Like in books, it's like that. And then all this enveloped with Anandamaya.
The Russian doll.
Yeah, the Russian doll. So it's like, and then that Anandamaya is surrounding me. No, Anandamaya interpenetrates everything. It's the subtlest. But where your awareness is another matter. When awareness is engrossed, it has less experience of the subtler. Mm-hmm. And that's why I gave that example with eating a cookie. You see? So obviously nobody is deprived from bliss. Nobody. All these addictions to chocolate and this kind of substances could be traced to that. You can be addicted to chocolate, but you cannot be addicted to bliss. You see? Chocolate, right, is a substance. And bliss is a substratum. That's the difference. So it's very healthy to recognize your own bliss and to know that you are that bliss, because it makes you freer from constantly depending on the finding this through the external. Even if Tantra advocates to seek enlightenment or seek self-realization through that instrumentality of sensory perception. But if that teaching is delivered without backing you up through a solid practice of meditation, through the inquiry, it will backfire with indulgence and nothing else. And very often that's what you meet. You meet all this indulgence in the name of Tantra. Does that make sense about the bliss?